Hello! Let's see, we already got 5 people in here. That's pretty impressive. Let me get everything set up here. Just made it to my desk. I'm actually at the desk tonight, so let's see what we got. Move everything here. Get Steam right the hell out of the way. Wow, camera or screen, it's the exact same freaking option. Why do they give you those options? Anyway, let's see what we got. Yep, let me, here's our real quick URL shortening service. Link shortener. Create a link. LC URL. LC. Perfect. Okay. Let's see who we got in here. Who do we have in here tonight? Sean. Hey, Sean. Spencer. Cool. So we're up to 5 people so far. Hey. Cool, we're up to 6. Tonight I'm going to try and go over a lot of MySQL. Probably some injection attacks. That way you know what those are. No music way too loud. Let's get the mixer up here. Any of you guys hearing that really crazy static? Nothing? Anything? Damn. I don't know what is up with them. You know what? I have no clue where in the hell it's coming from either. Let's tone that down. Let's see, how's it sounding now? Everything, does this sound a little better? Okay. I know tonight there will probably be some definite funky background noise. I'm going to keep tweaking these. I'm in the server room, so it's a little loud here. Having some tonight. Okay, I think that might be as good as we're going to get without muting the whole damn thing. Okay. Yeah, Zen... Shut up, dude. Anyway, let me get some of this shit out of the way. Okay. Tonight I'm going to start off briefly going over some of the things that we covered in the last couple shows here. I'm lagging pretty fucking hard. Do a quick poll here real quick. See, we got our terminal open here, and we're going to get poll origin dev, since we're still on the dev track here, in case Gates has changed anything, or Colonel. I don't know if he's changed anything yet. Get that one out of there. Yeah, the audio is terrible because it's a free live casty thing, and I haven't found a better alternative yet. Looks like we're good. Yeah, once I get talking, is everything okay once I'm speaking, or is it still just absolutely fucking terrible? Because yeah, I have played with their frickin' audio settings for over a half hour the other day, Still, for the life of me, even at defaults, it's absolutely terrible. Headphone. Echo. Yeah, that static is not static. Testing. It's directly hooked into the damn microphone. This shit really getting me. Let's see here. Yeah, it's set on headphone monitor so I can hear myself. Test. Is that better? Nope. Still sounds terrible. That's better the way it is right now. That might actually work out well. There's this stupid communications thing. Okay, that's set to do nothing. We good? Yeah. Just want to make sure I'm still audible here. I don't know what is up with the insane lag the minute I started this thing tonight. That I type stuff in the chat and it doesn't even show up. Anyway, so we are all up to date. Tonight we're going to go over, well, like I said, SQL injections and whatnot. But one of the first things we got to do is kind of get everyone caught up to speed. I know we had some. The answer would be yes. Can't hear you. Oh shit! Can't hardly hear you now. Okay. How about now? Am I coming through clear without the static? That's 10.1. So just move that one up a bit. We good? We're good. Oh my god. Finally figured that shit out. That was driving me absolutely insane. Let's find something decent real quick. Perfect. Why not? Static went up. God damn it. Okay, is the audio fine now? We good? Because I've got that down almost as low as it can go without completely there. That's 29. Negative 29. TNC. I mean, I can really do this without the music. It doesn't matter. I know that's always been a favorite. Okay, anyway, let's get rocking. I'm going to update a few things here in the mod control panel so you guys can see what we're doing in here. Let's see. Here's a great example. Here is our bands page. This one has recently been updated by Gates, so we're going to take a look at that. As with Monday's night's stuff, we have our namespace, we have our common, new function, checkbacks. The system uses a tiered array to handle permissions. So by inherently checking for MCP bands, that means you must be part of the moderator control panel group and have the bands permission, which inherently will block anyone that's not logged in. If you're not logged in, you have no permissions. So we don't have to really use the session check here. Next we have our header and footer. We're going to start both of those. We're going to set our title. We're going to print the header. New one here for you, GC icon. This is our icons library that we use to kick out all the really fancy icons. So we're going to go through here. This is just some text. Here's our SQL query. We're going to prepare it. We're going to execute it. Row. There's one. Convert time is a user function, so we have to put user and convert function. convert time. And that's pretty much it. It's a very basic page, and you can see here it is it's doing a select from the bands table, and it is joining twice on the members table. That's it's kind of interesting. We're joining twice. So one, we can get the member who we've actually banned, and we can get the name of the member who submitted the ban. So when we look here, we have M username, and then S username as submitter. So that way we're addressing it as its alias. Select B star will pull everything from the bands table. M username will pull the username from whatever M is. In this case, it's members. That's joined based on M member ID equals B member ID, which is the member ID of the bands table. Where B org ID, the bands are tracked by org ID in the system. So we're going to pass in OID, and it doesn't matter that we have control over that. Always sanitize everything. And then B status equals A. We're just going to throw that in there because we know what the hell A is. We've got control over that. Cool. And we just kind of crap everything out here. So if we're going to upload that file, and if we go into our system here, and we go to the bands tab, and we put an _2, we'll see if it works. And sure enough, we are good. We're good to go. Look at that. So yeah, that's that. The nice thing is about the KongHack system, the very first incarnation of the website used MySQL lib, and it was very procedural. And through evolution, we've come from MySQL lib and procedural. We've upgraded to PDO and functional. And now in our third incarnation of the system, we're taking that functional layer and we're converting it into namespaced classes. Classes are absolutely amazing. They allow you to package everything up and contain everything that you need related to one particular object. For this great example here, user convert time. We're not just converting the time of anything to anything. We are converting the time based on the user's individual settings. So convert time is part of the user class. We got this encode function, which we're slowly getting rid of. But you know, that's not really a big deal. Another great example: headers. I mean, we're gonna pass a comment in the user into the headers, so the header has access to those things, and then we're gonna set the title of what's in the header, and then we're just gonna print it out. That way, it's all self-contained. I know a lot of the older code would do something like this. We would do something like title equals something, and then we would do include header.php, for example. See, this is extremely archaic in the way things are done nowadays. Reason being, you have to know that title is a variable in header. If I didn't know what was in header, I'd have no clue that I just set the variable title equal to something, and it will show up in the header. That's kind of terrible. Going with that, there's actually a whole bunch of different things you can pass into header. And if I look at the header file, I would literally be looking at something kind of like that, a big block of HTML, except potentially hundreds of lines long, and I'd be looking for anything with a $sign to see if that's a variable that I could replace. With a class, you can easily, let me open up this class for it. Let's get in here. Includes classes, page header. In here, I can easily see page header. Look, there's some public variables. There's some private variables. Immediately a function. This is what runs when it's constructed. We go a little further down. Here's some functions. Add CSS, add JS, set title, set description, set keywords. There's a private function, display notifications, and here is the public function, print header. And you can see there it goes. It goes through the whole thing, and we don't even care what's in here. We don't have to know what's in here, because all of the things that we can actually address are right here. Here's the things we can change, right there. That's it. It's pretty simple. And there's a few PHP functions that will print out a list of publicly available variables and publicly available functions and whatnot. So even if I didn't want to open this file, I could still get a list of what can be changed within that file. And with this style of thinking, that's not a possibility. That's just ludicrous. So anyway, we're good here. We're not going to roll this out yet because, like I said, the new system uses a brand new sessions system. So obviously, that's not really going to work if I roll it out. It's $row. $row is the returned, in this case, array produced from query fetch. Query, well, here, let's do this. Here's our SQL query. This is a select statement. That's going to retrieve some data from the bands table and join to these tables regardless if there's any matching data or not. And it's going to follow this where clause. Next, we have query equals common db prepare SQL. Now, common db is our implementation of PDO, which is PHP data objects. That's the system we use to connect to the database. Prepare is part of the PDO class. And prepare will take this SQL query right here, and it will send it to the server pretty much exactly like it is right here. And the server will know that that is a replacement key. That's something that we're going to replace strictly with data. And this is where SQL injection prevention comes into play. If you really want to 100% guaranteed prevent SQL injections, you have to separate the data from the query, from the actual instruction. And I'll show you here in just a moment what I'm talking about when it comes to injections. So anyway, common db prepare SQL returns what's known as a PDO statement object, or the query. And then we're going to execute the query by passing it an array of what we're going to be replacing. So we're going to replace :OID with common org OID. OID is a publicly accessible variable within the org class, and the org class is loaded within common. Every page loads the organization's memory table, so it's stored in memory, so it's ridiculously fast. But long story short, this is going to return a number. For KongHack, that's going to return the number 1. So basically, this up here will be replaced with the number 1, and it will process through. And then we're going to do a fetch, which will return one record from the result set. So if there's 100 bands in the table, this loop will run 100 times because it will return a row, and while we have row equals query fetch, right now this is currently defaulted to return an array, and it will loop through that array and it will do everything in here. And when it's out, when there's no more data to process, query fetch returns false. So it will say while false. That's not a test. That's a direct evaluate or a set, not an evaluate. So this will completely return false. An array, not false. Anything, not really false unless it's false. So this will kick out false, and that will break out of the while loop, and away we go into the rest of our script here. So yeah, row is just an array of fields. So if you notice, we got like band timestamp, member ID, username, IP address, band reason, the submitter, which, hey, there's our alias, and obviously band ID, and here's our icon where we're echoing out edit. That's pretty cool. So I know I keep checking the chat, but I have no clue. No clue what that means. No clue. Wow, we're up to 7 viewers. Not bad. What do we got in here? Give the heck mathematic. Cool. I'm just gonna ignore that. Move on. Anyway, so that right there is the heart of a SQL query. That's a SQL query with a couple joins. I'm gonna see if I can't find something more simple for you. Here's our add script. Obviously, we haven't converted this over yet, so I will convert this while we're here, so you can see the whole process of what we're doing. We're going to call this 2 because it's the second incarnation here. In the new system, you'll notice everything begins with those 2. We define our namespace and we include comment. Between there, we will have use statements if we're using other native PHP classes. In this example, we're not, so we're not going to have use statements. Also, for this, we're going to want to make sure the bands check is in there as well. So we will copy those, And we don't need any of this session check crap anymore. It's all internally handled. We can get rid of all that, and bam. If you weren't here for the namespace introduction, a namespace is kind of like a drawer in your kitchen cabinet. PHP without namespaces is kind of like your counter. Everything's just kind of sitting there, and it's a total clusterfuck. You just got stuff everywhere, and there it is. When you start using functions, that's kind of like grouping things together on your counter. And when you start using classes, that's kind of like putting them into nice packages. So, you know, you get the box with a blender in it, and it's got all the parts and pieces in there, and life is great because it's all together in a nice package. That's a class. Now, when you start using namespaces, that's obviously, that really has nothing to do with classes. It's kind of its own thing. That's like individual drawers. So let's say this is the silverware drawer, and we know if we open the silverware drawer, the only thing we're going to find in there is silverware. In this case, everything we find with the namespace of GC World CMS directly relates to the GC World CMS, which is the project we're working on. The big benefit of this is, let's say I'm including a third-party library. Our great example that we use all over the website is HTML Purifier. We use HTML Purifier to make sure that what's being submitted through the editors is valid, doesn't contain malicious scripts, doesn't contain malicious iframes, all sorts of stuff like that. And it won't generally break the layout of the site. That way, you know, if someone puts an opening div and doesn't put a closing one, it'll clean it up and fix it. That's what Purifier is for. But Purifier exists up on the kitchen counter. So if I have something that uses the same name as Purifier, for example, you know, I created my own Purifier script that cleans HTML, as ridiculous as that sounds, the two would conflict. So if I have a function called Mitch, and someone else has a function with the exact same name, and I include their stuff, everything breaks. The script immediately dies out and says, nope, you can't define this function twice. But you can have one sitting on the counter, and you can have one in the drawer. So that's what we've done. Everything that we've written in here is contained within the GC World CMS. That's why if we need to use PDO, for example, let's say we created a new PDO. PDO object. PDO string. That's our connection string. That will fail because right now we're in the drawer. We are in this particular area of the kitchen, and we don't have PDO anywhere in sight. But if all of a sudden we go, boom, ta-da! We're back out under the cupboard on the counter again, and oh, there it is. We have access to it. The other way to make this a little easier, not just for, oh, hey, you know, putting a backslash, that's one character, that's pretty easy. You know, obviously you might forget that character and go, why isn't this available? The easiest thing is to use PDO right at the top. That way you don't have to put the backslash later in your code, and when you open up this file, you immediately say, this is part of the namespace, oh, and hey, we're using PDO. Not a big thing, but it's nice to know what it is that you're pulling in from other areas. This also means if you include a third-party library, you can include that you can directly access that library, such as that. You're now using it. And let's say these people went above and beyond and put all of their stuff within a namespace. You could go their namespace, backslash whatever, backslash more stuff, slash HTML Purifier. And that right there is perfectly accessible. Although I do believe in this case you might need to put that in front. I don't know, haven't tried it. I've never actually ran into a third-party library that is properly using namespaces. Namespaces are fairly new. They are part of PHP 5.3 and up, or maybe 5.4 and up. Anyway, they're really new and they're really cool, so that's all that matters. They keep things clean. Anyway, let's continue on down here. So obviously we have our, we see we got add a band and we're including our header. So we're going to want to get rid of that. And you know, we might as well just grab all of this right here. Why not? So obviously, we're going to need our header. We're going to need our footer. Our title is, MCP add a band, and we've printed the header out. There it is. This actually, the PM user system is allows you to message a user. It is an Ajax-based list of users, so we can just include that here, and that's fine. And down here at the end of the page, there's our include footer. We're going to footer print footer. Okay, no big deal. We really don't have any queries on this page. So, you know what? Okay, let's make it to the next page. Yay. Edit. Oh, no, sorry. Don't add response. Here we go. This is where the magic happens, I guess. Okay. Decode is part of common. Boom. Trim, that's native PHP function that's globally accessible. That just knocks off any white space. Here's a great one for you. The IP address, if you've entered an IP address in, it will validate the IP for IPv4, and it will make sure it's not a private range. So if someone gets thinks they're funny and puts in 192.168.0.1, for example, yeah, it's not going to validate that either. If you notice right here, here we have select star from members, where member ID equals MID, and org ID equals OID, and status equals A. Now what this is going to do is going to pull all of the data from the member row, and yeah, because we're going to test some stuff against it. Normally, I know I'm always preaching, hey, don't ever do a select star, that's inefficient. Honestly, with how small this script is, it really won't matter, but so we're going to convert this over. PDO is now common DB, and that's a function because this is actually returning the handler of PHP, or of PDO, as opposed to just directly accessing PDO. This way you can't accidentally modify PDO. I can't set something on this. If I were addressing common PDO like this, I could actually mess with that. That would make that publicly available, and we don't want anything besides common actually touching the database. So anyway, so we've prepared it. Here's our execute. Common OID is no longer valid. That's common org OID. The nice thing here is this we are addressing as an actual variable, but you can't change that variable. It kind of resets itself. But anyway, we're not going to get into details on this crap. Make sure that if there's a staff indicator or a super user indicator, they can't be banned. If there's the member ID less than 2 or the IP address is blank, invalid, here we go. Here's where we're going to kick out an error. So here we're going to need our header and footer. So, bring in our header and footer. This one. I know it does add a bit to the code. I know you're thinking, man, the files are getting bigger. In some places, in some cases, smaller files tend to get bigger, and bigger files tend to get smaller. It kind of works out in such a way. This PDO, this will be common, and DB, and I'm going to switch this one to common org. Okay, now here we have an insert query. This is going to create the ban record. Now we have the org ID, the member ID, the IP address. Obviously, these are both if one was entered in. The timestamp, which is the Unix timestamp of now. The reason, which is note. The type of ban, which right now is hard-coded to level 3. Who submitted it, which is the current session ID, and the status is immediately going to be set to A, so that this ban is immediately enacted. So this is your basic structure of an insert query. Now, in PDO, like I said again, this is not very exploitable. The one place where things could be exploited is in the event of an XSS attack. That's when someone puts a script tag into a text field, and the system saves it right to the database, doesn't care. That's why we have script tags on the only piece of actual text that can be put in here. The member ID, as we see up here, is decoded, which means it's passed through an int vol, which means it will return a number every time. And to be safe, we've even extracted it out. The IP address gets passed through a validator to make sure it's an IP address. In the event that there are any errors whatsoever, none of this SQL actually occurs. And then the note is, you must leave a note, so you can't leave it blank, and you can't just put a space in there. So if you put the letter A, whatever. But only mods can do this, and I can see what mod did it, so leave a note. Anyway, and then we have this header location bans.php. When you pass a location header, it will that's a redirect. So yep, that's going to just completely redirect. And if you notice, we didn't put an ending PHP tag here. You can put one, but in PHP, it is not a necessity to end your PHP tags. Reason being, let's say we're working on a library, something that someone else is going to include in their page. And let's say, like a moron, I did something like that. Well, that white space gets echoed out to the browser. So, normal programmers through process of programming will include all of the external files they need, usually at the top of a file. And, well, this just included it, was included before anyone echoed anything out, so it just broke their session. It broke any level of output, and it broke any headers. So don't ever do that, and you don't necessarily have to close your scripts. So you'll see I do here and there, but oh, should I save that, didn't I? No, we're not going to upload it. We're just going to rename it. Devan add response 2, and we're going to re-download that one from the server. Now, so you've seen some inserts. Now, you've seen some inserts. You've seen some selects. Obviously, there's updates, which let's see here. Let me pull up an edit response page or an edit page for you here. Obviously, here's our, we're going to select some data. We got stuff being selected. That's fancy. But this is an edit page instead of an add page. So for this example here, we're still going to look at it old school. Update bans, member ID, IP address, note status, ban ID. So obviously, we're going to update everything. We're going to follow the same procedure. Status is checked. Oh, hey, look at that. I'm just using status as it is. The good news is the status column is a car1 field, so it can literally only fit one character. So XSS injection attacks are impossible on a one-character field. The other good news is you can't inject that. Even if you put a single quote in there, it'll be escaped within the system and be perfectly fine. The other news is, this is, again, a mod control panel, so if someone's fucking around in here, I'll know about it. And honestly, I want to know about it. Yep, thank you, Sean. Anyway, so obviously, we have an update. And, yeah, that's all hunky-dory peachy keen, and it's terrifying. Let's see, what do we got here? 2 Seans! Fun. Anyway, let's get out of here now. I want to show you a little old school code that's used in some systems that I work on quite often. Let's do this. Session start. And then include common. For this example, we'll use common. Not the nice new common that we're working with, a much older school common. And in this set of code, this one I'm going to actually ask you guys some questions on. SQL equals update members set first name equals. Oh no, we got to put single quotes around that. And this entire string is going to be in double quotes. Yay. Last name equals name, where member ID equals member ID. Okay, let's see if you're all paying attention. Something. So, what is horribly wrong about this file? Let's see. I'm gonna put that over there, and let's bring our chat window right next to it. What is horribly wrong about that? Nope, not that at all. That doesn't matter. The very first thing you see here is this. Let's break this down. No, we properly ended that. Syntactically, nothing in this at all is wrong with the syntax. This will successfully execute 100% of the time. Granted that my update query needs to exist as a function, and you know, there it is. You know what? Actually, let me make this one a little better for you. There, let me do that, and then we'll do something like this. One that looks like absolute shit. I see this every day. That looks ugly as sin. Even if it's like this and lined up, why is it in there? How would I ever echo that string out in case I need to debug it? Can't. So let's just undo that. So here we've separated out. We've stored this in a variable that we're going to immediately use. No big deal. And then if we really wanted to, we can unset it, or we can just end the file and be done with it. Doesn't matter. The problem herein lies, where in the hell do these come from? Where do they come from? I have no idea. But if this was a response page, it would be safe to assume that these variables are coming from the previous page. The next question is, how did they get to be first name, last name, member ID? Where did they come from? This type of programming you'll typically see in a register globals environment. That is, every variable that's through get, post, session, and cookie are all thrown into the system as real variables like this. That is the biggest, most terrible flaw you could probably do in your programming besides directly throwing them straight into a damn query. So let's say we did something like this. First name. And we'll duplicate those. And member ID, let's say we actually did this right, and we stored that in session. Sorry. There we go. So we know that first name is from the post, last name is from the post, member ID is from the post. Now, that's still terrifying. Anyone can put anything in there. A post value is not. Never, ever, ever trust data coming from the user. Ever. Doesn't matter if they are a super user, doesn't matter if they're your best friend, never trust it. Here's a great example. First name. First name. Let's, what happens if someone passes a single quote? Right? Let me copy this query right below down here. You know what? No, sorry. I'm going to copy this to a new tab set up in SQL view. There. So now we get our proper syntax highlighting. Okay. So now we see here in our now highlighted query, we're updating members. We're setting first name equal to $sign first name. Last name equals to $sign last name. Member ID equal to $sign member ID. And we've we've grabbed them. We're not using the register globals anymore. We are actually dealing with them in their native form as a post variable and as a session variable. Session variables are normally only ever set by the server. Some piece of coding logic has to set those. So immediately by using session member ID, we've knocked out a lot of problems. That's great. But what happens, like I said, for first name, this is a direct insert of whatever is passed through post into the system. What happens if someone passes first name as just a single quote? Shit. That whole query, broken. That whole query just went to all hell. You know what? Let's try zooming in. Ooh. Let's keep zooming in. Enhance. Yep. Immediately a single quote's passed in, and it is broken. So that right there is terrible. And I see this every day. Same with last name. The minute a single quote's thrown in there, it is broken. So let's say we do something like this. we're gonna set $ first name to something absolutely terrible. We're going to set $ first name equal to single quote to X single quote semicolon. And then we're going to do delete table members semicolon 2 dashes. 2 dashes in MySQL represents a comment. Ignore the rest of what's here. So if I copy this, and that's going to be what shows up in first name, if I paste that in there, well, delete table just got highlighted blue because it's now a function. And this comment kills the rest of that query there. So it updated members. It set every record's first name to an X. Sorry, that shouldn't be delete. It should be drop table. Sorry. Now it just dropped the members table. Not only did it set everyone's name to X, it just fucking deleted them all. They're all gone. And if you're not backing up correctly, or you're only storing one copy of the backup, all your shit's gone. It's not coming back. That absolutely terrifying if it gets into your system. So how do we combat MySQL injections in an old school environment, in an old school way of thinking? Well, the nice people out at php.net and got together with the MySQL Foundation, and they came up with a great way to stop that. They wrote a function, MySQL real escape string. What this will do is it will take whatever value is in here and it will properly escape every character that can break a SQL query. Single quotes, backslashes, double quotes, percent signs. I think percent signs. Don't hold me to that one. And then a whole array of multi-byte characters that can really fuck up your day. Multi-byte characters are basically multiple characters kind of smashed together into one character. That way they pass through a lot of filters. Especially because most people don't have multi-byte encoding protection installed on their servers. Plus, it's a pain in the ass to deal with multi-byte. And a lot of the older security systems check for single quotes, double quotes, semicolons, shit like that. Not multi-bytes, because there's a fuck ton of them. And you can't really type them on a keyboard. You have to hold Alt and hit keys. Anyway, so if we do MySQL real escape string, first name is now safe to be used in this query. The problem is a lot of people still haven't adopted MySQL real escape string. This function is already deprecated. The entire MySQL lib library is deprecated as of 5.5. It will be gone in the very, very new future because it is so bad and so prone to injection. They are completely getting rid of it. So anyway, a lot of people are still using add slashes. Well, that escapes single quotes and double quotes and other backslashes. And that's it. It's pretty shitty. That's all it escapes. Maybe a handful of other characters, but not the ones that are going to break your server. So don't ever use add slashes. Always go with MySQL real escape strings if you're using an antiquated system. The other thing is, well, what if first name is now a JavaScript? And that JavaScript uses a little bit of AJAX to post back to my server your session ID. Your session ID is all that you have, tying you to the website you're using in 99% of cases. Those of us who take the leap into higher end security actually tie additional things to your session to validate it, such as your IP address, for one. An additional cookie that sits on your computer. For us, that is the auth cookie. That's the reason why you can only be logged into the KongHack website on one machine on one browser. Go ahead, if you open Chrome and you open Firefox and you sign in Firefox and you sign in on Chrome and you go back to Firefox, you're logged out. Unless I've been meaning to fix that, so it's not really a fix. I've been meaning to change that so you can enable multiple logins. But I don't. It's part of the new system. We're not that far yet, and I don't know if I implemented it before. Yeah, it sounds terrible. But anyway, yeah, for the longest time at least, you can only log in once. We maintain sessions. Anyway, so let's say we real escape string all of these. We're still prone to XSS. That's still terrifying. So we're gonna do strip tags. That removes all HTML tags that you don't define. So let's say we did want bold tags in there. We could do that, and it will allow just bold tags. But for this example, we want to get rid of all of them. That, as far as I'm aware, through everything I've been through, is as secure as you're ever going to make that. It's cool. Now, if you do the same with last name, you'd be fine. Member ID, we know that's going to be an integer, so let's wrap that with an int vol. Let's make sure that that's an integer. If you have any broken code, any non-secured code anywhere in your system, the odds of it being exploited, especially in today's environment where everyone is searching for hacks, and botnets, we've been hit, not KongHack, but the company I work for, has been hit several times in the last month with wide-scale bots just probing for SQL injection points, and they have found them. We've patched them, but they have found them, and the moment one injection point is found, you can safely assume that all of your data has been mined. That's the other thing. You have to have something that's tracking errors, something that's catching these things, and letting you know that they're happening. Otherwise, they'll get in, grab all the data, and you'll have no clue that every shred of data in your system has been mined. And they can do that by rewriting. Let me zoom this back out. Basically, how we use a single quote to break, and then we could do whatever we wanted. Here is, and I know this is totally a whole, oh no, he shouldn't be showing us this. This is the data model. People would know what tables to look for to inject it and break it. Doesn't matter. Our system is using PDO. All of the data is abstracted away from the queries. Here's a table called information schema. It exists in all MySQL 5 and up database systems. Everyone I know is using at least 5, because 4 is completely dead. If you're still using 4, I hope that you get the shit injected out of you and just all of your stuff destroyed, because you need to update, you need to keep up with these things. Right now we are currently using the latest MySQL, I think it's 5.5 something, that's available for cPanel WHM environments. Anyway, if someone can inject your script, they can query this columns table. And obviously right now we see information schema, and here's all of its tables and columns. But let's say I do a show, I can do a command called show database, which will return the name of the database. So now I know that my database is KongHack_DB. Right there, KongHackDB. If I do table name equals, or table name, table schema, if equals, oh look at that, they gave me a drop down. KongHackDB. I can hit go. Boom. Oh, what do you know? There's all my columns. Oh, there's my tables. There's the columns. There's their position in the table. Defaults, data types, maximum and minimum lengths. The whole 9 yards. What privileges the current user you're running as has to affect those tables. Is this the primary key? I don't know what mul is. It's probably just an index or something. But yeah, look, there's big int, long text, varchar, everything, the whole 9 yards. They can get all of this information from a single injection attack by just hitting something like that, and then using as to alias things, by just poking around and trying a few things. In this example, first underscore name is pretty damn obvious. If I were outputting stuff, I could rewrite a query to say, let's output table name as first name, column name as last name. Boom, I just returned all of your shit. Your entire data structure. I just returned it and spit it out on your own page. The nice thing is, well, not really nice, this is an update, so that they're not going to get any output. They might get an error, and I'm pretty sure they will probably get an error with a single quote. If they have a successful query, obviously they won't get any message. But yeah, that's, you know, there's that. I mean, that's really the gist of things, as far as, you know, your basic SQL queries and injections go. And granted, once you start getting into a multi-byte, we're talking, you know, a much more hardcore level of injection, and that right there is, you know, that's the end all of SQL injections. If you can't get in with a multi-byte injection, you're not getting in. The other thing is you can obviously guess passwords. If you guess passwords, hey, it might take you forever, or you might get in. There is that. Your other real option is what is that? A little social engineering. See if you can get in. The other one is test their server to see if the port is open. MySQL port is 3306. Ours is not only closed at the MySQL level, we're also behind a firewall that closes all of the ports except for SSH. I literally have to tunnel in to access my own server. So hey, we're pretty secure on that end. If you'd like to see the correct way to handle this, to make things a lot smaller, let's get rid of all of this here. We're just going to keep these up here at the top, so you still see what variables we've got. And that's the old way of thinking. Let's say we weren't using the big, awesome common class, and we were just using something straight up called PDO. Equals new PDO string. There's our connector. So now we have an instance of PDO. This will also work very similar with MySQL. MySQL came out with 5, PDO came out with 5.1. MySQL is MySQL improved. It is almost identical in form and function to the old MySQL. So in this example, this would be MySQL query SQL link, where link is the resource handler that MySQL Connect would return. MySQL I query is pretty much, that's that, but it uses link SQL. Reason they did this is to make sure that you go through, if you're updating MySQL I, that you go through every instance and fix things. They put them backwards so you would actually have to look at your shit. You couldn't do a blanket replace, which I completely applaud them for that. Anyway, it's not a drop-in replacement. And you should be passing your resource handler. MySQL query, I'm not for sure if MySQL query allows it, but there's a lot of things, like MySQL real escape strings. Technically, you're supposed to pass link at the end of it. Link can be connection, whatever you call it. But if you don't do that, it will just use the last one. The last used thing. So if I connected to multiple databases and we're querying information, I better be keeping good track of that, because that query is going to use whichever one was last accessed. So yeah, don't ever do that. MySQL I can be used procedurally, or it can be used like PDO as an object. PDO is strictly an object. The big benefit of PDO is you can swap out database drivers. It's not tied to just MySQL. You can use all sorts of different database systems with it, be it straight up Oracle, Microsoft SQL Server, even SQLite files. Just generic SQLite files on your hard disk. It can connect to those. There's even a plugin to connect to Microsoft Access, especially if you need to get old shitty information out of one of them. It's perfect. So for PDO, one of the first things we're going to do, obviously we create a PDO. We're going to create our SQL statement as update numbers set first name equals first name with a colon in front of it. Last name equals last name with a colon in front of it, where member ID equals member ID, obviously again with a colon in front of it. Now, you can see a few things that are different here. This one uses single quotes on the outside. This one uses double quotes on the outside. Any string that is in double quotes is evaluated by PHP first. Anything within single quotes is taken literally. So when we look at this, PHP is going to look, nope, that's not a variable, not a variable, not a variable, not a variable. Oh, this is $ first name. We're going to replace that. Not a variable. Oh, there's $ last name. We're going to replace that. Not a variable, not a variable. Variable. Replace that. Right? If we wanted to make this better, we could do that in single quotes, but screw that. We're not doing that anymore. So our next thing here is we're going to need to prepare our statement. Preparing sends this out to the server, like I said, and says this is the instruction. Anything we pass to it from here on out is just data. Treat it as data. That's what prevents your injection. So we're going to do a query, or we can call this whatever. We can call this update query for this example, equals PDO prepare SQL. And then we're going to execute that update query. And we're not going to even use these. We're just going to straight up use these. update. Sorry. Query, execute, array. We pass it a multi-dimensional array. Replacement key value, replacement key value. First name. We're going to do strip tags. First name. We don't need to escape it because it is raw data. It doesn't care. And we've stripped tags, so we're good there. The other thing is, if you notice, I've kept all the variables consistent. And if you notice, here we have single quotes. Down here we don't. MySQL real escape strings escapes the contents. It doesn't fully escape, which means if it is a string, you must make sure that you are putting those outside there. This completely escapes. It will put single quotes around everything where appropriate. Okay? So, you know, obviously, and I can hit duplicate, duplicate. Oop. Wrong duplicate. Duplicate, duplicate. So I can replace that with last name, and I can replace member ID. And we get rid of our last comma. Oh, by the way, PHP doesn't care about a trailing comma in an array. It does not care. Browsers, like IE, do care, if I can spell it, in JavaScript, but we're going to cover JavaScript and Ajax further down the line. So there we are. We've got our first name, our last name, and our member ID. That is a secure query. It doesn't matter what they pass in here, and if it's an XSS injection attack, we've knocked it out. If it's a SQL injection, we've abstracted it out. That is basically bulletproof. What you'll want to do, obviously, before this, is you'll probably want to make sure first name isn't blank. You're going to want to do a trim on it to make sure it's not full of white space. You'll probably want to do all of your handling of these before the actual query. But as far as preventing injection, that prevents injection. That is the cause of injection. Now, PHP's been around for a ridiculously long time. I mean, not super long, but I mean, for a web language, it's been around pretty fucking long. HTML's got it beat, but for processing, PHP's been around for a long time. And it's got huge backers, like Google and Facebook. You know, Facebook is all PHP and C. That's pretty fucking impressive. Anyway, so what we've got is, you know, this is the way things should basically, at least in my opinion, be done. Preparing a SQL statement prevents your injection by not putting the data that can be altered into a command in the query. And I know I was going to talk about covering actual injections, but to be honest, I know the media, a lot of postings online, absolutely glorify SQL injection as the end-all, be-all of getting into things. Converting this to this stops that. The problem is, a lot of big companies out there have been doing shit that way for forever. Or they're using old systems that did things that way. Or they were using PHP back before 5, before MySQLi and PDO were available, back before prepared statements. And they have never upgraded, they've never changed, they've never adapted. That's where all the injection points come in. Or older programmers that are getting back into programming, older programmers that have never left but have never updated, that are still programming old-fashioned. They are all exploitable in such a way of, you know, passing junk in. I'll openly admit, I've done a SQL injection before on a guy. There was a spammer that was literally spamming the crap out of me and a bunch of people I know. He had an unsubscribe link that didn't unsubscribe you. I threw a single quote in there, it broke. I did a lookup on his tables, I got his table name, which happened to be members. And then I ran a drop table members. It destroyed his entire website, it took it down. Granted, it took him a couple weeks, he put it right back up and was right back to spamming again, but that was 2 weeks that he wasn't sending out spam. Just by putting a single quote and then a drop tables and some hyphens in there. Was not sanitizing his inputs. Was not abstracting things out. And it destroyed him for 2 weeks. That's the other thing. So long as people have backups, you can never really destroy them. You can take them offline, you can fuck up their data, but if they're backing up, And if we look, here's my inbox. If I go into, see, look at that, I'm letting you see my shit. Isn't that terrifying? Oh, if I go into my backups folder and I just look at backups, there's KongHack. There's one, came in at 9:03. Came in a half hour ago. It's a 21 meg file. I get these every 3 hours to my inbox. Not only that, I have mirrors that are mirroring the database at home on my local server. I'm streaming in live backups every half hour. Obviously, I don't want those in my email because those will fill up pretty quick. I mean, at 21 megs a pop, those are pretty big. Let's check. For this example, normally PDO is a native PHP class, so you don't need to include it. You can just directly address it as new PDO. That's right there. You can just address it as that. And now within our construct, because we're using a namespace, within our system, we have to either use PDO at the beginning, or we can do /new /PDO in line. That's within a namespace. This example, well, I just closed it out, was not within a namespace at all. So yeah, there's that. Look at that, we're up to 131 megs in the database. Not too shabby with 1.1 million records. We're doing great. What? So we got 6,000 spam records. Check this shit out. You guys might like this. Every registrant has their email, their IP address, and the IP address of their email account checked. And here's the last time it was checked. You know what? Let's see. Let's go to Unix timestamp and throw that timestamp in there. The last bot that tried to sign up, look at that, came in at 7:45. Well, I don't know if it's a bot or just a douchebag with a, that wanted to sign up. But less than 2 hours ago, we blocked someone for spam. The system checks against spam hosts. Well, let me check. Register response. Yeah, the system will check not only your IP address, but the IP address of your email account. Okay, check spam list. Boom, 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 boom. We're going to get the IPs. We're going to check it against Tornval, 2 different spam host blacklists, and Barracuda Central. So we will check both IPs against 4 blacklists each. And then we will also check the email address and your username against stop forum spam. And if there's more than an 80% match, I will stop you from registering, add you to a blacklist, and away we go. Right, obviously this hasn't been updated yet. There's probably, there's probably a 2 version somewhere here that Gates has already updated. Anyway, that's pretty much it for all I've got. I know I've gone a little over my 45 minutes. It's over an hour. The last couple were like an hour and a half. Any questions at all? Close out of music here now. Let's check here. Love that chat. Hey, Gates. I didn't even see you join in. What? I gotta call you. I don't even have your number, man. I've got TNCs and kernels, but yeah, I'm not gonna give out anyone else's phone number. So you guys all got mine. Yeah, man. I'm gonna try and schedule some more of these on days when just here, don't have to worry about anything else. Maybe a Saturday or Sunday night, or maybe next Thursday or something. I'll throw a thread up, see what you guys want to cover. This is yeah, that one. So, long story short, tonight we briefly touched back on namespaces and classes again, and we went over basic SQL queries, some basic joins. I mean, not exactly super in-depth. I mean, it's only an hour. Hell, I still don't know everything about everything. I've been doing this shit since I was a kid, back in high school. So, just a little. Yeah, I've been doing this stuff since I was 16, if not a little earlier. And yeah, I still don't know all of it. Got a pretty damn good handle on it, but there's still new things I learned. Like, you know, it was like a few weeks ago, learned about, it was a few weeks ago, learned about auto-loading. And it was something new in 5.3, I guess, and taken further in 5.3 and 5.4. And so now, KongHack, the new engine, runs strictly on auto-loading. I don't have to include anything aside from common too. And I'll show you this real briefly, for those who weren't part of that session. In our file, we've defined, here is our handful of things that, let's say I were copying this to a new server and making a second complete install. These would be the things that I change right here. Just those four. That's it. Root is our master constant that is defined within GCWorld CMS. It is not defined anywhere else. It's within GCWorld CMS. We've included our constants. We've included our handlers, which is special back traces and exception handlers. We've included kint, which is a fancy debugger. And we've included a file that's in root, so it's above public HTML with secure data. And obviously there's a note here. This is things that contain plain text passwords, such as your database connection string. The very next thing you see here is a class called myLoader, and in it has a static public function. A static function means you can address it by class name, 2 colons, and then load. Normal non-static implementations of classes are as such here. You do variable equals new class and then whatever things you're passing it. That's typical class structure. Statics are basically just built kind of like for wrappers. Say load is the name of another function, and I still want to call mine load. Whatever, I can do this, and it works. Sorry. The other nice thing here is root, because that's defined. That's considered a constant, and it's globally accessible only within GCWorld CMS. I can access that straight in here without having to pass that through. Common root, the common class. Obviously, we don't have an include to a class called common. What this SPL autoload register does is it takes your current namespace and does a backslash, and it's going to pass whatever this is to whatever this is. So it's going to pass common into myLoader load. So now we've got the name common. And of course the namespace as well is part of this because we're within a namespace, and that it's going to look for it. So we've passed that in, and we're going to explode on the backslashes, and then we're going to get the class name off the end. So this would actually, name in this case is actually GCWorld backslash CMS backslash common. We know that because I've echoed that out. Here's my print. I've kicked that out, but fuck that echo. And then I have done an include. Root public HTML includes classes. Class, the name of the class.php. You'll notice there's an @ symbol here to suppress errors. The trick is SPL autoload register is going to create this autoloader for classes. The problem is native classes such as PDO are also privy to this. Even though I've properly set a use, it's still going to run this first. Obviously, I don't have a file called class.pdo.php. And if I did, I wouldn't want it to load because I want the native PHP to load. By putting an @ in front of an include, include will throw a warning if the file doesn't exist. In some places you'll see require. Require will throw a fatal error. It will immediately stop if the file doesn't exist. In this case, we want to make sure that certain files don't exist, things that we don't want to load, such as a fucked up version of PDO. We don't want to do that. So we just ignore the warnings. It's basically what this says. Ignore the warning, don't output anything, just move along. So when I start PDO, it's going to run through this. Nope, that doesn't exist. Throw a warning. Nope, never mind, we're not going to throw the warning. And then it's going to go, oh, yep, PHP has PDO, here it is, grab it, use it. So yeah, so there's that, and that's the autoloader. Any class name, example, KH session handler, or HK. Wow, I fucking spelled that horribly wrong. You know what? I'm gonna fix that. I can't believe I spelled that wrong and it's been wrong this whole time. That's impressive. That is impressive. Well, when you copy paste, that's what happens. Yes. Yeah, there it is. Delete the old one. And we're going to edit this because the class name inside also needs to be the same. There we go. See here, use session handler interface. And we're going to implement session handler interface. That is a particular class of PHP, and we need access to it so we can implement that within this. Basically, implements allows you to override that with this, which is this. And there's all sorts of crazy cool things. And then, you know, obviously I've made a bunch of changes today, so I'm going to commit these. I'm going to do git, you know what, add, because I don't remember if I created anything. Git commit avm updates. Git pull, git push. Now, my GitLab server is running in a virtual machine on a server behind a firewall, behind a bunch of stuff and a bunch of tunnels. So obviously, it's going to take a little while to get through this. So we're just gonna keep going while that's running. Long story short, oh look at that! It figured out that we renamed it, and that 96% of the file remained the same because I changed a couple lines. Anyway, anything else we got? Anything at all? We're closing in an hour and 15. Anything at all? That chat is absolutely dead. Well, cool, I guess. If anyone has any questions, you know where the forums are. Just if you don't have an account, sign up. Otherwise, sign in, log in, do whatever. We have obviously there's this developers forum is just for us. There is a talk and there's a programming forum. What do you know? We actually put together a programming forum, and there's not much in it. There's 90 threads. If you don't include the global, there it is. Feel free to post programming questions. I mean, it doesn't matter what language. There's tons of us on this site. We have over 9,000 members, so I'm sure more than just myself and a handful of other people here are proficient with programming. So yeah, feel free to ask whatever questions you got in the forums. Like I said, I'll put up a thread later, probably tomorrow sometime with a schedule, something, come up with what you guys want to learn about next. Because, I mean, I'm here. Yeah. I keep forgetting that there's a delay. There is a freaking delay on this of about 15 to 30 seconds, depending on latency, even though it says I have perfect streaming. And right now I'm running at 18, 17 frames per second because I'm not doing much. Because not a lot of content's changing. But anyway, yeah, totally forgot about the delay. Sorry about that. I really need to get some better software for doing this. Well, anyway, you guys all have a great night. Like I said, post shit in the forums. If you need anything, I'm going to shut this down now. Y'all take care. Bye.